Hi, everyone. Recovering from depression is hard. Recovering from depression without any social support on your own, that's even harder. In the last few videos in this series, we've been talking about the importance of social life and social connection and building a social support team to help overcome symptoms of depression, to help a person come out of depression by using some of that social support to help buffer against the effects of stress and to help improve the symptoms of depression itself. Now, the first couple of videos in this series on building your social support during depression, we've talked about two of the easier ways of building your social support network. The first of which is reconnecting with old friends who you may have lost touch with over time or over the course of the depression. It could also be deepening current relationships, taking some of those relationships of people who are in your life and making those relationships deeper. In today's video, I want to talk about one of the other ways of building a social support network, and that's to specifically introduce new people into that network. Essentially, how to build new friendships, how to make new connections in depression. Now, this can be a little bit challenging. That's why I always talk, when I talk about building a social support network, I always start with the easier ways. So reconnecting with people because you know that you used to be friends with them, but also deepening those current relationships because these are already people that you know and you kind of know, and it's just a matter of trying to get closer to those people. But how can you form new friendships? How do you form new relationships? This can be really challenging, especially as we get older. When we're in elementary school and high school, even university, people have access to lots of people their age. And so there's a variety of people to choose from. But as you get older, as you move along in life, it becomes harder and harder to meet new people and to make new connections. And so you might be wondering, okay, well, if there are easier ways to build my social support network, why would I even focus on trying to find new friendships? Well, first of all, it could be that you didn't have a lot of friendships to begin with. Maybe a lack of social support, maybe isolation was part of what contributed to the onset of depression. And so as a way of coming out of the depression and a way of preventing future depressive episodes, it can be useful to build the number of people in your social support network. Secondly, you may want to think about the nature of the relationships you had in the first place. Maybe some of the relationships you've had in the past, maybe they were toxic, maybe they were unhealthy relationships, maybe they were abusive relationships, maybe they were manipulative relationships. Not all relationships are good or healthy relationships. And so if you have a history or you had friendships that were these sort of toxic, unhealthy relationships, maybe starting new friendships and making new connections with people, that's probably a better way to start than to try and reconnect with these former toxic relationships. And finally, when you're coming out of depression, there's a lot of pressure to live up to the person you used to be. And so if you had friends that knew you before you were depressed and you're coming out of depression or you're wanting to come out of depression, it can be hard to live up to that standard of the person you used to be, that person that they know. So by starting new relationships, it's almost like you're starting fresh. You're starting completely with a blank slate with people that don't know you, that don't have any expectations of the person you used to be, the things you used to do, that sort of thing. So there can be some real value in building new friendships, building new connections as a way of expanding your social support network, which can help you come out of depression, but also help buffer against the effects of stress and prevent future depressive episodes. So how do you go about doing it? What are ways in which you can form new connections, form new friendships in the context of depression? Well, one of the main barriers to building new relationships, finding new friendships in the context of depression, is a barrier that affects almost all aspects of a person's life in depression, and that's lack of motivation. Depression saps motivation and energy from a person's life, and so if you're not feeling particularly motivated, if you don't feel a lot of drive or energy to want to form new friendships and build new relationships, well, of course, you're not going to take any steps to do it. So, the way to address this lack of motivation is to use those goal setting approaches that we've talked about in previous videos. Start small with low expectations and low goals that you can achieve, even if you're not feeling particularly motivated. It could be things like spending 2 minutes brainstorming possible ways in which you can meet new people. It can be going onto your computer and looking up the community resources schedule to see what classes might be available at your community center that might be of interest to you, that may bring you into contact with new people. So the idea is you want to set goals based on your level of energy and motivation that's actually there. You may also want to think about why you're doing this, and that can help build some of the motivation for taking the efforts to make new friends. Focus on the benefits of it. How will this help me? Well, coming into contact with new people could help me feel a little bit better about myself, feel like I've got people who care about me. Um, it's nice to meet new people. It's nice to interact with people. It's nice to potentially form friendships. So really focusing on the benefits of why you're doing this and to reward yourself along the way, right? To think about and to encourage yourself when you achieve these goals. Yeah, it's not a big deal to spend 2 minutes brainstorming ideas for how I might meet new people, but I did it, and that's important. I achieved that goal. So really focusing on rewarding yourself and encouraging yourself along the way. Another barrier that could stop people from taking efforts and taking steps to build new friendships or form new relationships is negative self-talk. I've talked in other videos about how depression's kind of like this gremlin that sits on your shoulder and tells you all of the things to believe to make you feel even more depressed. You may think to yourself, no one's going to want to be friends with me. No one's going to find me interesting. I'm not a very good person, so why would anyone care about me? So the way to overcome this barrier is to really evaluate and challenge those negative beliefs about yourself, to take a look at what it is that the depression gremlin's actually telling you, and to evaluate whether or not that's true. Is it true that no one would ever care about you or that you're unlovable? Well, what's the evidence for that? Have you ever had someone who's cared about you? Have you ever had someone in your life that was close to you? If you have, then that means that you're not unlovable. It means that people can care about you. So you want to recognize and be aware of some of these negative thoughts that the depression gremlin is telling you, and to try and challenge those thoughts along the way as you're working towards these goals to build your relationships and build your connections. And these two kind of work together, because the more you take steps to form new relationships with people, and as you start to see some progress in that, it can help start chip away at these negative beliefs and negative thoughts that the depression gremlin is speaking into your ear. One of the things about depression is that it can make it very difficult for a person to feel that they're in the moment, that they're able to connect with what's going on around them and able to connect with interacting with other people. You can feel very detached and disconnected from all areas of your life. And this can be a real barrier, because if you don't feel like you're connecting with another person, it's going to be really difficult to try and form or develop a relationship with that person. So the idea is, if you're having trouble feeling a sense of connection with other people, one of the things you can do is ask them a lot of questions. Not like an interrogation, but out of genuine interest. Uh, People like to talk about themselves, and people like it when you show interest in them. So if you're asking questions and listening to the answers and following up with um, related questions, what it can do is it can help you really focus on staying focused in the interaction and keeping the other person engaged with you. And so they may start asking you questions as well. And there can be this little bit of reciprocity in that interaction, which can be really helpful. And in this process, you can find some common ground. You can look for interests that you share, beliefs that you hold in common. And as you're looking for that common ground, that's where you want to focus on, is connecting with the person in the areas that you have shared interests, and really focusing on deepening those connections through those shared interests. So as you're listening to what the other person's telling you, as you're asking these questions, you're looking for areas that you can connect with the other person. And this might seem like an obvious point, but it's important to be present in the interaction. Put the cell phone away and focus on the interaction, focus on the other person and what they're telling you. Nothing can be more off-putting than you're having a conversation with someone and they're checking their phone because they got a notification or they are returning a text message from someone else. Stay focused in the conversation, stay present, and show the person that you're interested in them. And finally, one of the biggest barriers to forming new friendships or making efforts to try and connect with new people is a fear of rejection. And that relates to some of those things that the depression gremlin might be speaking into your ear, telling you things like, you're not good enough, no one's going to care about you, that other people will reject you. So the idea with this is to try and reframe and think about these social interactions a little bit differently. So first of all, it's important to recognize that sometimes these interactions are going to feel a little awkward. It is a little bit awkward when you're trying to sort of start up a new conversation with someone you've never met before. Permit that awkwardness. It's okay that it's a little bit awkward. There's nothing wrong with you if it feels a little bit uncomfortable or unnatural. As you get to know the other person, as they get to know you, and you start to see that maybe there are some other connections here, then it will feel more natural and the conversation will flow a little bit more. Now, related to this, it's also important to remember that not all social interactions need to end up with you feeling like this is someone that you want to be friends with. Think about every new social interaction as just an opportunity to speak with another person and to get some experience communicating with other people. It doesn't have to necessarily have a payoff, because if every relationship, every interaction you're having, if you hold the belief that this has to lead to me wanting to be friends with this person or me having to convince this person that they want to be friends with me, that puts a lot of pressure on every single interaction that you're having. Recognize that these interactions are just opportunities to evaluate whether or not these are good fits, and to recognize that not everyone is going to be a good fit for you, and you're not going to be a good fit for everyone. So what this can do, if you recognize this, what this can do is it can take away that sense of there's something wrong with me because the other person didn't want to continue that conversation, or there's something wrong with me because I didn't find that person particularly interesting. Not all interactions are necessarily going to be wonderful interactions that you really enjoy and you really want to get to know this person. That's the whole idea of building new relationships and new friendships is that you're taking people who are outside of your social connection. You're getting to know them. And in doing so, it's almost like you're interviewing them as to what level of connection that you actually want with them. Where do they fit in your social support network? Is this someone that you want to be a really close friend with, or is this someone that you just want to be an acquaintance with? It's through the process of talking with the other person that you determine where they fit in those rings of circles, just like they're determining where you fit in those rings of circles. And so not every interaction is going to lead to, this is going to be my best friend. And if you hold that expectation, you're going to set yourself up for failure a lot. So that fear of rejection, just to remind yourself, what exactly is success here? Success is, I'm talking with this other person, we're having an interaction, and I'm determining whether or not I want to continue with that interaction just like they are. So it takes a lot of the pressure off of the importance of this social interaction if you start to think about it that way and to start to reframe what the goal is and what success is, rather than seeing every interaction that doesn't lead to friendship as a failure. So the key part of all of this is, if you want to build new relationships, if you want to build new friendships in your life, in the context of depression or even outside of depression, you need to make some efforts to do it. Unless you're in elementary school, unless you're in high school, you probably don't have access to people who are looking for friends. And so what you need to do is you need to make some efforts and put some energy into it. And I know that can feel daunting if you're feeling depressed and you're feeling like you don't have a lot of motivation and energy to do anything else. But by setting goals, by thinking about those goal-setting principles and setting goals around ways of potentially forming new friendships, it can help you start on that process and on that road towards bringing new people into your life and building more of a social support team. So if you're interested in learning more about challenging negative beliefs that you might have about yourself that might be holding you back from forming new relationships, I'd encourage you to check out this video. So that's all for today's video. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.